So today we're delighted to be joined by Michael Smith from Word for Weapons. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us on board, Cyrus.
Excellent. So for some of our viewers who may not be familiar with Word for Weapons, explain, what is it about?
Word for Weapons came about back in 2007 when there was a number of young people that were killed through knife and gun crime in the UK. And it really troubled me so much. And at the time, I was a serving police officer in the Metropolitan Police. And, I prayed about this, and the Lord clearly spoke to me and said, I want you to ask the young people to swap their weapons for my word. I'm Michael, I'm the founder of Word for Weapons, which is the UK's first weapons exchange program, and it's an anti-knife and gun crime initiative that I started back in 2007. And the real reason for starting this was after seeing so many young people having been murdered through knife and gun crime, I decided to do something positive that wasn't being done anywhere else, and that is to create the UK's first weapons exchange program. And in a nutshell, we put weapon bins on the streets which are very secure, and when people put a weapon in it, they can call out the location where that bin is, and they'll be given a bag in exchange with lots of information of help to help them turn their life around, a Bible, and free gifts as well in there. And that has helped us to pull in lots of weapons off the streets and help to reduce knife and gun crime. We found as a result that when we first piloted this in 2009, we got 116 weapons in 6 months. Well, since then we've collected 5,500 weapons to date. And amongst that we've got 6 guns. So we know that what we're doing works, we know that it's positive, we know that we're helping to change people's lives. And when we went to the bin earlier and we saw that one knife wrapped up in the tissue, for me, it says maybe one person has had a change of heart. One person has changed their mind about carrying a weapon. One person has decided, I'm not going to use that weapon on somebody else. I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to put it away. I'm going to have a change of lifestyle. I don't want to get caught. I don't want to go to jail. They're making that decision. And that for me is the best result that I can see, because if I open the bin and there's only one weapon in there, I look at it as one life saved.
Let's take things back a little bit. You're a retired police officer. Give us an insight in some of the things that you saw as a police officer. You witnessed gun crime, you witnessed knife crime. Explain what you saw.
Well, as a police officer, you see many, many things. We've stopped people on the street and searched them and found them carrying guns, found them carrying knives, and subsequently they have to be arrested because of that and brought into custody and taken through the criminal justice system because they breached one or more acts of law. The challenge with being a Christian and doing the job as a police officer is not that you're going against the law, you're upholding the law, but then at what point do you start to show mercy? What point do you start to show grace? The law has to be carried out, and that's what you've got to do as your job. But having been a Christian police officer, it gives you another insight into that mercy side. It gives you that insight where Christ would come in and have compassion and have grace. So you're not dealing necessarily as harsh with somebody as the law may say you have the power to do that.
Now, you being a Christian police officer, how did you feel when you were coming in front of these criminals here and you find they have knives, they had guns, they had certain weapons? Were you able to, did you have any freedom to preach the gospel, tell them about Christ in any way?
Well, let me say this. When I first became a police officer, the Lord had to work on me because he had to work on me as an individual. I did things quite rigidly. It was as you spend more time in the police, as you spend more time praying and seeking God in the course of your work and the course of your duty, you begin to become a bit more softer and more compassionate towards people. So in the beginning, it was very, very rigid with me. But then as the Lord started dealing with me and saying, look, you've got to have mercy, you've got to have grace. I could have been one of those young people on the street. You're not forgetting the law, you're not going against the law, you're just dealing with the law and you're applying it with a bit more compassion.
Let's talk a little bit about the different types of crimes there are currently in the UK. We're seeing recently in the news talking about the motorcycle gangs with machetes, with hammers, with all types of weapons. How do you see that things are changing? How have things changed in your opinion over the years? Are people becoming more and more used to using different types of weapons?
What we're seeing now is a resurrection of people using weapons again openly on the street. And that's where the problem is. The law became weak. The powers that the police have become weakened. And what we've got is more, let's say, civil rights, more what they classify as being human rights, allowing people to do what they want and get away with it. So because we can't now discipline our children perhaps in the way that we used to, I'm not saying that it was always right in the way that discipline went, but because we now have societies being brought up in an ungodly manner, where we've taken God out of schools, taken God out of the homes, so we've got ungodly parents bringing up ungodly children, the whole element of morals has gone out the window. It's walked out the house, stepped out the door. So what we have now is people that have got no real moral conscience about them. To take someone's life, to them, it doesn't mean anything. They have no value on life. Now, I'm not saying this about all young people, because I'll tell you what, we've got some of the most incredible young people in the world that you could find. The majority of them are brilliant, wonderful young people. There's just a small element, but that small element is making such a big impact and holding so many parts of the nation to ransom and holding them in fear. Now what we're finding is that where people perhaps would at one point waited until the hours of darkness where they couldn't be seen, now they really don't care. That CCTV doesn't mean a single thing to some people. They really don't care. They're not afraid of having their face on television. And the reason why they're not afraid is because they don't have any value on their own life. Had they had value on their own life, they perhaps would have said, I don't want to go to jail, I don't want to get in trouble for this, do this thing secretly. Now, not anymore. They're now doing this quite openly in the public view.
How important are the family values that we're trying to put into our children, for example, of really bringing in the family and the family staying together as a unit? We often see some of these young teenagers, they're involved in the gang culture. Why? Because you hear them say, the gang is my family.
Yes.
What do we need? What advice could you give maybe to some of the parents who are watching today, and they might be concerned of the types of activities maybe some of their children are currently doing at the moment?
Well, the parents have got to, first of all, I would say the parents would need to know God. And I'm going to read a scripture here from the King James Version of the Bible, and it's Mark 13:12-13. And it says, now the brother shall betray the brother to death, and the father the son, and the children shall rise up against their parents, and shall cause them to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake, but he that endure to the end, the same shall be saved. Now, there is a clear message that these are Jesus' words, saying that the parents are going to be against the children against the parents, they're going to cause each other death. This is exactly what we're seeing happening today. There is no mistaking about this is what's happening today. If the parents do not bring their children up with some firm guidelines and some firm boundaries, but also with love, and it has to be the love of God, love of Christ in them to bring their families up. If they don't teach them those moral values, if they don't teach them the values that's in the Word of God, where do we expect our children to be? if a child does not respect their parents, the parents are people in authority, then they will not respect other people in authority. Which is why when you find that you've got young people saying, you know what, the gang that I'm with, this group of people that I'm with, that's my family. It means they have cut off their family. They have cut off, disassociated themselves with their blood family, with their parents, their mother and their father. And there are far too many absent fathers in homes. There are mothers walking out on their children and leaving them with just a father who may struggle to go. So there are too many single parent families. The whole family structure and network has been torn down. It's vital that these children have a good family structure to bring up. Now, that's not to say that because a person is a single parent, that they cannot bring up a child successfully or children successfully. I know some of the most incredible single parents who have done so well. They've done a better job than sometimes two people living together. They've done a far better job. So it's really down to the parents on how they bring their children up. If you teach your children love and respect for you in the home, yes, please, thank you, no thank you, gratitude, show them just common sense respect.
We were talking earlier about gangs, gang initiations, for example, and some of these gangs actually get some of the new recruits, some of the young kids in the gang to say, if you commit this particular crime, you will then be part of our gang and part of our gang family, so to speak. Give us a little bit of insight, what goes on, because it's not very much exposed on commercial TV or terrestrial TV or anything like that, but you've witnessed some of these things that's been going on. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, yeah, it's not just the fact that they will say to the younger person, you do A, B, and C, or you carry out this act and you'll be part of our gang. It's sometimes, if you don't carry out this act, we're going to take your life. If you carry out this act, we will get you the pair of trainers that you wanted. You won't have to worry about money, we'll give you money. If you want drugs, we'll give you drugs. If you want whatever, we'll take care of you because you are now family. So that's what they will say to your family.
Do we see that the rate of the gang culture is increasing? There's more and more gangs coming every year in the UK at the moment. What do you think?
There appears to be, and obviously they start with groups of individuals which may be living around the same area or the same community, the same streets, and they feel that they want to take a territory. They feel they want to be in charge of that territory. Just in Brixton some time ago, a young man happened to be walking through Angel Town Estate, where we have one of our knife bins. Unfortunately, the people who lived in that area, who carried a knife, didn't make use of our bin that was there. They should have done. Because as the young man came through there, they said, you're not from this end. You're not from around this area. What are you doing around here? And he was just going about his business, using it as a route to get from point A to point B, and they stabbed him, and they took his life.
The more knife bins there are, the more weapons that come off the streets, the more we would like to believe that we've made a difference in saving people's lives. Unfortunately, it's not a measurable achievement. You can count weapons. You don't know how many lives would have been saved, could be saved, but you have to keep trying. I think the one thing that I say to anyone who asks about family's experience is that it's not possible to imagine. You cannot imagine the grief and the anguish and the impact that losing someone through homicide has on a family.
I am a victim of crime, and my son was murdered by a gang, and they got him in the middle of the road, a busy A road, and they got him on the floor and they stamped on his head and left him to die in the road.
He died at 3:30 in the morning. We had to wait till Tuesday for the coroner to see the coroner, because it was bank holiday, and we weren't allowed to touch Christopher's body. I don't know if you know that. Christopher became what's known as a crime scene. And what people don't understand is, when you've got a murder in the family, that your son, your daughter, mother, brother, everything, they become the property of the coroner. They're not your property no more. So you've got no say in what they do. The doctors can touch him, the nurses can touch him, everybody else can, but the mum and dad can't. And if you went to visit him that day in the Undertaker's, there was a big picture of Chris, and the Undertaker should have run in and spray his aftershave all around the room so you could smell him. That's the only way we've got to say goodbye, wasn't it? If one knife is in that bin, that's one murder less. One knife is another parents like us who don't have to go through what we went through.
When these things happen to you, I think you have a choice. You can lay down or you can rise up. And it takes a lot of bottle to do it. It takes a lot of guts. But when you do it, you get more than you think you're ever going to get. You get a lot of freedom that you can live in. And I kind of think they took my son, they took some of my life, but they're not having the rest. And I won't let them.
The thing that keeps driving me on to do what I'm doing with Word for Weapons is I feel that I still have to get up every day and do whatever I can to save another life. We've got to keep making a change in people's lives until they get the message that carrying a weapon doesn't save a life, it takes a life.
Tell us a little bit about Word for Weapons and the weapon bins that you're distributing now throughout parts of the UK.
And I wanted to get good, secure weapons bins that people could just deposit their knives in and help to reduce knife crime on the streets. Now, it made sense to me, being a police officer at the time, that they were not going to work if you had these bins at a police station. Sadly, the Metropolitan Police got a load of bins the other day, not through us, I might add, but got a load of bins and put them at police stations. The police officers are calling me on my mobile phone and telling me they're not working. Well, I know they won't work, not going to work. I told them that in 2007. And in 2017, 10 years down the line, we have our bins on the streets and those bins are collecting weapons. Not to say that the Met ones are not collecting weapons, they are. But the people that you want to deposit their weapons in those bins are not going to go to a police station. Mrs. Miggins will go to the police station and hand in a knife, an old knife, one of her kitchen knives, or something that she found in her house, or something that her husband had from the World War II. She might go and hand it in the police station. But little Johnny who's down the road is 14, 15 years old, who's got hold of a knife, is not going to go to a police station and hand it in. So these bins are out there, they're out there in the public, they're out there in the community, they're outside community centres, supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Aldi and Tesco, they're out there on the high street, and they are there outside churches for people to literally walk up, put your weapon in there, and you can walk away. However, when you put your weapon in, or whether you do or not, you are free to contact us, either by text or through our website, and ask for an All I Need bag. And with the All I Need bag is a little bag that we have a Bible in, and it's got other information, other booklets, and you might get a free gift in there as well if we've got things in stock. And you can get this bag and we'll send it out in the post to you, free. You don't have to pay for it. We send it out to you in the post, and it's for you to, hopefully, to help you turn your life around. It's painful when you're seeing a young person, 14, 15, 16, who hasn't even lived yet, haven't even discovered life, and seeing that they're being buried. Knife crime, gun crime, murder destroys families. Word for Weapons helps the local church by equipping them with a secure weapons bin and the training and information that they need in order to help their community to be safer.
Each knife that's in there is potentially a life saved. So if there's only 2 knives in there, that's potentially 2 lives saved.
If a church wants to start an initiative with Word for Weapons, they just need a couple of people to contact us.
Hello, Word for Weapons.
We'll send them out an information pack, an application form.
What we'd need to do is book a site visit, so we'd make sure that where you'd like to have the bin installed is away from CCTV, and we'd make sure that the site...
And we'll do a risk assessment to make sure it's appropriate, and we'll look at the crime stats in the area as well. We first of all decide if we put the bins outside churches, when someone goes to the bin, on the bin would be a notice that if you want to receive a free bag, in there is a Bible and other bits of information to help young people. That's now your opportunity as a church to engage and say, is there anything else that we can do for you? Ultimately, I'd like to see every town, every major city in the UK with a weapons bin, and just to make the United Kingdom a much safer place.
That's amazing. It's incredible what you're doing. How many weapons have you taken off the streets since this has started?
Today, in excess of 26,000. And I've just had another, some of our bins have been emptied. They're still going through a process of being emptied as we speak. And there was another 1,000, I think 1,054. So I would expect that there's going to be, could be another 200, 300, 400, could be 500 more weapons to come in on that, could be another 1,000. However, what I would say, Cyrus, is that in our bins, they've also just recovered another 4 guns. So our bins are not only just collecting knives, people are depositing other weapons in there as well. So whilst we don't say you should put a gun in there, it's a knife bin. But if people are depositing guns in there, it's a good thing, because the gun is now off the street, it's out of circulation, and cannot cause anyone else any harm.
Once these weapons have been placed into these bins, what happens next, Michael?
They get destroyed. We used to take some of the weapons and melt them down and turn them into awards. I've probably got one here that I can show you actually in my drawer. We turn them into, they come out once they're melted, and they look like this. I don't know if you can see that.
Wow, I can see that very clear.
And that says education on the front. Now, that's all in its raw state, the metal and everything. But then what we were doing, we had some coated in nickel, which is that, and we sell this. That helps to fund our education program. However, what we have been doing up until last year, and we have to now do something else, so we were having these coated in 24 karat gold. So that's coated in 24 karat gold, this one. It says education. On the back, it says this used to be a knife.
Wow.
So that was a weapon that's now been melted down, coated 24 karat gold, and we were giving these away as an award to people who had turned their lives around or made some positive impact on the community and changed their lives. We were giving those as awards.
That's absolutely great idea. Great idea, Michael. I mean, do you ever get the opportunity to visit any of the prisons and meet with any of the young offenders who have already committed their crimes? Do you ever get the chance to speak to them? And if so, what have their reactions been? Do they feel remorseful for what they've done?
Yes, we've had an opportunity to go to prison. We've had an opportunity to witness to young people. We've had an opportunity to encourage them and help to steer them out of the way. We sent our information into prisons, and we have met with inmates when they have come out and they've been released from prison. We've met with them, talked to them, encouraged them. We've given them Bibles, we've given them booklets and information, and they've moved on. We don't keep records of their details. We just don't do it. We simply pass on the word of God, we encourage them, and we move on.
What would you say about some of the criminals who are in prison and they've committed a serious offence? I'm talking about murder. They've been given several years in prison. For some of these people, it must mean an end to their life in the way of they have no hope, they have no future, where to turn to next. Surely this is a great opportunity to be talking about Christ and introducing Christianity into their life.
I believe that through Christ, anybody can be reformed, right? Anybody can be changed. I mean, anyone. No matter who you are, no matter how hardened a criminal you've been in your life, you can be changed when Jesus Christ has an encounter with you, or when you have an encounter with Christ. You can be changed. If you look through the Bible, there are umpteen examples of that happening, and there are many examples of people alive today who that's happened to.
Excellent, Michael, brilliant. We need to be talking about reaching the roots of all of our problems, and what you're doing is amazing work with Word for Weapons and the weapons bins. Tell us a little bit about your future. What do you see coming up?
There are people requesting bins which will go out. I've designed a new bin which is going to have a dramatic impact on the way that we operate. I've got another one on the table, on the design table at the moment, which will come out soon, and it's going to be it will shortly be in the process of manufacturing, and that we will hopefully see all across the UK, and we're going to find it hopefully internationally as well. I would like to have our bins in other countries, not just the United Kingdom, because there are other countries that are suffering with this similar challenges where knife and gun crime is concerned. And some of the bins that we're going to that we're going to be rolling out, we'll be able to accommodate all sorts of things. Let's just put it that way.
Wonderful, Michael. And what advice would you give to any young person watching us today, and they might be involved in a gang, they might be involved in crime, they might not have the confidence to tell their parents or their family the activities that they're carrying out, but they know what they're doing is wrong? What advice would you give to them?
The advice I'd give to a young person today is to consider, if you can, your future. Consider where you want to be in the next 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now. Consider, is it worth carrying a weapon with you? Is it worth risking losing your own life or taking the life of somebody else for an argument, for somebody looking at you or you looking at someone and they're taking it the wrong way? It's really not worth it. I would encourage them to drop the knife, get rid of the knife, get a life and bin that knife. That's what our slogan is: get a life, bin that knife. And it's on our bins, it's on our website. We want people to make sure that they understand that. If they want to save their own life, if they want to save the life of others, they need to bin their knives in a recognised knife bin, whether it be at a police station or whether it be in one of the Word for Weapons bins, or whether it be in the West Midlands of one of Birmingham Empowerment Forum bins. You know, they've got 4 bins up there as well. So I would encourage young people, carrying a weapon, you're breaking the law. It offers you no protection whatsoever. That's a myth. The Bible says, as I quoted before in Matthew 26:52, he who lives by the sword dies by the sword. It is a known fact, and has been proven statistically, that the Home Office came out with these figures, that more people die by their own weapon, by their own knives or by their own weapon that they're carrying, more than someone else attacking them with a weapon. So if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Excellent. Michael Smith from Word for Weapons, thank you so much indeed for joining us today. Take care and God bless.
You're welcome. God bless you too, Cyrus.